we are thrilled to have one of Effie's very good friends, apparently. I'm not sure exactly what the relationship is. I know they spend quite a bit of time together. Mary Coustas, welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show.
Hi there, guys. It's great to be part of this.
Well, reserve your judgment. We'll see how we are in 20 minutes. No, it is an absolute thrill to have you on talking to us. Take us back to where it all started. If you're a proper of Greek heritage, you must have spent some time in the sort of Brunswick, Fitzroy, Collingwood area.
Well, I grew up in Collingwood.
There you go.
First decade of my life there. And then, and so I think that's where it all was really fertilised. My love of multiculturalism and just being around so many Greeks and Italians and Croatians and Turkish and Aussies, and it was just a mixture of everyone there in Collingwood. And my primary school was very diverse. And then we moved to the white middle class when I was 9, and that was the opposite of that experience. That was very white and Anglo, and I was one of 3 in the whole school. And so that was a big handbrake on my love affair with multiculturalism, because I became very much, a target and was noticed for reasons that were just physical and cultural and not much more. So I think that informed so much of the work I chose to do. But the other place that was very formative for me was actually Geelong.
Oh, okay. Nice work. Well played.
That's where I studied drama for 3 years. I went to Deakin University, and my major was performing arts, and I was at the Mill Theatre for 3 years doing my performing arts classes, and so I lived in Geelong for 3 years. So it's a big deal to me to come back with my show.
Absolutely, it would be. I was fortunate enough to be born in a small part of Greece called East Brunswick.
Yes.
And I spent the first 5 years of my life in East Brunswick, and we lived next door to a Greek family. And we were kind of the other end of the spectrum, sort of going, I think at my primary school, East Brunswick Primary, English was the 4th most common language spoken at home, behind Greek, Italian and Turkish. And my mother and father used to refer to folk of your heritage as New Australians.
New Australians, yes, that was very much a term back then.
And my grandfather, who, of course, would have been in his 30s or 40s during the Second World War, had some nasty experiences with people from various parts of Europe, not on the front line. So there was almost a fervent dislike for elements of the, quote, New Australian. So it was a really weird place to grow up. And I also ended up out in the eastern suburbs. You went to Greythorne, I went to Don Vale.
Oh, wow. God, we sort of almost mirrored each other.
Well, we could have played footy on the opposite each other, except for you're a year or two younger and that girls' footy wasn't around.
And I understand, there was always tension about political things and wars. I remember when the whole Cyprus thing happened in the early 70s, that was played out in the school grounds between the Turks and the Greeks. And look, it's hard not to be affected by, things that are that scary and that divisive, and they do play out through generations and in places that you don't expect. Not that we knew much, but we were just inheriting the news and what our parents' response was to it. And I suppose here's the gift of comedy and the gift of time and the gift of food, is that they're all doorways into understanding and falling in love with a culture that you might have had, a preconceived idea about. And it becomes this sort of level playing field. And so I've been lucky that I was able to find that avenue very early on and siphon a lot of my perspectives, my history through that, and elevate it to something that was really, really super positive and fun.
Mary, you may have already answered this question by the aforementioned commentary about coming to Geelong as a youngster, but the desire to entertain, was that part of your life and upbringing before you and Effie became friends?
Well, I think it was just my way of giving something to certainly the community that I grew up in. I'm very much an observer. I love knowing people's stories. I love knowing, different characters. Doesn't matter where they come from. And certainly growing up in Collingwood, I was surrounded by them everywhere. So it was my way of making sense of what I was seeing and experiencing every day. So acting to me was a gift, firstly, to me, because it was so exciting and such a great way of understanding humanity, and putting it out there via that love that I had for it was a great way to share it. So I didn't think I could do it professionally and make a living, and I've certainly done that for 35 years. Because no one was looking like me, in the industry. I was looking for familiar faces that sort of had some sort of similarity to me, and they weren't there in the Australian industry. But thankfully, we managed to sort of push down that door, and since then there's been a lot. So, it's just a fantastic thing to have accomplished and to have been part of. And when I say I mean we too. The boys from Wogs Out of Work and Acropolis Now, we're able to, through our own similar story, go out and do something massive, which was awesome.
I think food and music tend to be the things that bring cultures together quickest. You mentioned food earlier, but I think once the fear element dissipated from all the reasons that you and Neil spoke about your growing up, humour then became another way to bring cultures together. Because when the Greek, Italian and Anglo-Saxonness realised that there was a lot of fun involved, the world changed a bit, and you were probably part of that change.
Yeah. Look, I think, what we know is that there are certain universal things. There's music, there's dance, there's food, and there's laughter. It's where we engage. It's a full-bodied experience, right, where you're just not using one part of you. It is stimulating so many different parts of us. And that's when we're at our most human, I think, when we can have that experience together, eating together or dancing together or singing together. We go to a concert. Yeah, of course we want to see the artist. But what's even more, I think, bonding is everyone singing along together and having that shared experience. And comedy's that, not everyone laughs at exactly the same jokes, but they laugh, as a group so often throughout the hour, say, with my show. And I know how healing it has been for me, and I certainly get that sense every night with the show when I'm performing it.
Now, you... Obviously, the Wogs Out of Work Acropolis Now was a bit of a turning point for you. How did that come about?
Oh my God, that came about out of necessity, I think, because we were all trained actors that couldn't get work. And we'd all graduated from different acting schools, and I literally fell upon Nick Giannopoulos by accident. I served him as a waitress. I was waitressing after I finished uni in a restaurant, a very shady restaurant in St Kilda. And for some reason, he came in on a Saturday night with someone he'd just graduated Victorian College of the Arts with. And I served him, and he said, I know you. And it turned out we went to the same primary school and the same Greek school. And that, he said, what do you do? And, what do you really do? And I said, I just graduated from an acting school. He said, so did I. So that struck up a really fantastic friendship and professional relationship, which was awesome. And then he'd mentioned Simon Palomares, and that we auditioned for something, Nick and I together. I got the job over him because they just wanted one Greek. They weren't specific about the gender, so I got it over him. And then he said, obviously there's a synergy between us. I want to work with you. And then Wogs Out of Work came up, and I jumped into that. And Simon Palomares was in that at the time. And then George Kapanaris joined, and then Acropolis Now, the opportunity to do that came about through Crawford's and Hector Crawford, who'd seen Wogs Out of Work and said, this is unbelievable what these kids are doing. We've got to put them on television. And then so Acropolis Now happened. That
original show in our house was known as New Australians Out of Work because my mother couldn't bring herself to use the W word.
Yeah. I get it. That's cool. That's sweet. Well, we hope that more people made that choice, and if they had, maybe it would have been called New Australians Out of Work. The WOG was thrown around in very negative ways.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we used that to try detoxify it by putting it in a show where we reclaimed it back in an affectionate way. So
yeah, that's interesting because of all we mentioned before about the fear and sometimes hate. Do you really feel not only did you earn a living out of it, but you played a really important social role in helping to bring those cultures together?
Well, that's the biggest thrill, honestly, because that's the stuff that remains. I mean, there's a lot of working actors out there, and that's all good. But when you can do something that changes the perspective on, on something that matters to you, that's the thing that matters most. I see it in everyone that approaches me. That I literally wrote to. There's a luggage brand called July. I don't know whether you know of it. That's massive. And
I just bought some for my partner for Christmas, also associated with massive price tags.
So one of the guys, there's two partners that owns it, is a Greek guy.
Mm-hmm.
I never met him. And I read an article about how well they're doing. And so I found his email, and I literally wrote to him last week and said, I just read, this article. I'm so excited for how well you're doing. Just know that I've got 2 pieces of your luggage and I take it to Greece with me and my family every year. Bloody, bloody, blah. I didn't say who I was, but I did put my name because it's in my email address, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, and that was that, because I was so excited for someone to do something so fantastic. I didn't know he was Greek, and I'm a big fan of them. So I just wrote to this person I've never met. And he just wrote back to me and said, oh, my God, you have no idea what this means. You have meant so much to our family and what you guys did and da-da-da-da, out of nowhere, and that's just a random, emailing exchange. But it happens all the time where parents will come up and say, you allowed my child to feel okay about themselves. You gave them the words. Mm. And obviously when I say you, I mean the boys and I. Mm. And so, yeah, that really matters. I want my kid to feel confident. I want all kids to feel confident. And race is just one of the things that I tackle. I mean, I've tackled gender, I've tackled class, I've tackled all sorts of issues. And in my own personal story, which was pretty massive, when I was trying to have a child and then eventually had my daughter, that really touched a lot of nerves, because I was an older mother. I'd done a lot of IVF. I did 23 IVFs. I had a stillborn baby. All those taboos, anything I experience, I try to put in through this sort of creative, positive vessel. And mostly it's with laughter. Obviously, with what I went through with my own personal journey was very dramatic. And I wrote a book about it, 60 Minutes, did 2 stories on it. I try to put whatever I've experienced out into the world if I think it's going to help others. Certainly it helps me, and it luckily has helped many, many more like me.
Well, Mary, the other, we did also understand that you might be spending some time with Effie this morning, and that you might be able to pass the phone across. Before we do,
yeah,
I would like to also ask if you know the name Constable Julie Macris.
I do. Oh, my God, yes, I do. I played a policewoman person.
Police officer.
That's it. In a show on Channel 7 called Skirts.
Yeah.
Same time that I was doing Acropolis Now, Channel 7 said, because I didn't train as a comic actress. I didn't come from a stand-up comedy background. I came from a character background, an acting background. So they said, would you want to jump into this drama for us? And I said, yeah, as long as I can do Acropolis at the same time. They said, absolutely. So I did both on a show called Skirts, which was a great cast.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that in was because there are some who associate you exclusively with Acropolis Now, but, it was a typical TV cop show, but I remember it very fondly as a great show, and that demonstrated a different aspect to your acting that a lot of people would remember.
And then years later, I did a show on the ABC called Wild Side, where I played the lawyer on that, and that was fantastic too. Look, I love drama. I mean, you can't be a woman. You can't be a Greek woman and not So I do love it. I don't get a chance to do as much of it but because comedy is such a sweet thing to be, it's the sugar of the genres. It's so much fun. It's so instant. It's so healing. It's such a fun time, and I need to be lightened up as the world does. Certainly in the last 5 years, and laughter's the best way to do that. So yeah, I haven't been doing as much drama, although I did a Mary one-woman show, which I'm doing again for the Melbourne Comedy Festival, which I premiered at the Opera House here, called This Is Personal. And that is dramatic and funny to equal measures, and most people that have seen that have come back and seen it again and again. So I'm hoping anyone that hasn't seen that show will come and see it at the Melbourne Comedy Festival, because I'm very proud of that. But separate to that, Effie is my favourite little toy, and she's bringing her very, very funny show, Up Yourselfness, to Geelong next week. I'll be there on Friday night with bells and heels.
You'd be sitting in the front row watching, wouldn't you? Or are you sick of her work?
Never. It is out of jail free card.
Excellent.
I would never get sick of her. She's been such a gift to me and to others, which I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, I was reintroduced to her recently when I had to get some old episodes of Acropolis Now to polish my Greek accent for some amateur theatre, and it was wonderful to see her back, and looking forward to chatting to her this morning, if you can find her.
She's here, standing by.
Is she? You better put her across.
Hello, good thanks. Oh my God. Finally. I've been waiting in the wings, waiting for my name to be mentioned so I could come in and take over.
We could almost hear you in the background like a purring cat waiting for your
I could hear a toe
Effie.
tapping.
Ready to pounce.
Effie, we are so excited that you are coming to our town, and it's a town that that your good friend spent a bit of time in a long time ago. Are you excited about Geelong?
Excited. I cannot wait. It is so mental that I've never been there with a show. I mean, I say that and I'm embarrassed, and I don't get embarrassed easy.
We've seen that.
Come up with the term "how embarrassment," but it is a shame. It is offensive. It should be a criminal act that I have not been to Geelong with a show. But I was trying to get there, but then COVID happened. I had a show already booked, and it had sold out. And I was about to go, I was a month or two away from that, and then COVID hit and everything got cancelled. And then the Geelong Performing Arts Centre got renoed, so I couldn't get back in, but now I'm there on Friday.
Effie, you're going to love the renovations. It is something that we are very, very proud of in our city, and it allows us to attract talent of your ilk. But you might need to bring an entourage of security, because you're probably aware that there's a very, very large Greek heritage in our fair city, and there'll be a lot of men after your very attractiveness.
Well, I'm married. Sorry to upset, but I got married a few years ago.
Did you? You've broken the hearts of half the Greek population of Geelong.
I'm not coming to the show anymore.
I'm still hot.
We know that.
Yeah.
We know that. Are you getting tired of doing this wonderful work that you do, Effie, or do you still love it?
Never. It is, and you'll know when you come and see the show, it is such an energising, life-affirming, very honest, very edgy, this show, because this show actually talks about political correctness.
Yep.
And that's, a landmine for any free-thinking, free-speaking person, which I hope we all are. And so I tackle that. I put it in a headlock, and I tackle it, and I do it in such a way that I think finally people are coming up to me always after a show going, I couldn't articulate it, thank God you gave me the words, because I do talk about both sides, both political correctness and freedom of speech, and I do make a case for both, but in the end freedom of speech will always win. Good, thanks.
Yeah. Now, it's a difficult area you step into, but courage is something you've never been short of, Effie.
I know, I do have, I'm very feminine, but I like to say I'm a bit of a hermaphrodite in the genitals department, testicles. I do believe I might have a third tucked in there because I have an excess. It's like a fearless state to be in. I don't like fear as a feeling. I think we should save it for important things only, not daily things. And people come and see me and they get rejuvenated with laughter, perspective and courage.
And I think love is another thing you permeate very strongly. While there's a brashness to you, you love spreading love.
I do love spreading love in a hygienic fashion, in a humorous and hygienic fashion. Listen, I know that I represent myself when I'm on stage, and I do know that in the audience are many me's. Everyone that's in there has elements of me in them, and I think they feel seen. And there's a chunk of the show that's improvised. No need to get scared. It's never horrible, but I do believe there are so many stars in my audience, and they make themselves able to shine through my show, and it is very interactive. But I've got to say, look, I've been doing this for a very, very long time, And I am, the immunity that society needs right now. I am the vitamin D.
Yeah, well, you're very right, because when I was a youngster, we were fearful of Greeks and Italians, and now there's other cultures that are coming to our country. But I think you can become almost an ambassador for goodness in this area. So good on you. We're looking forward to seeing it.
Much. People say to me, "Why don't you go into politics, Effie?" And I always say, because it's too political.
Politics has that habit, hasn't it? Now, I'm fascinated, Effie, by the fact that the last person who I think was on the stage that you're going to be on at Geelong was a lady called Marcia Hines. And we just know her as Marcia. And we've got Kylie, and we've got Effie. How does it feel to be so well known and so famous that you don't even need to have a surname?
It feels good, I've got to tell you. You should try it. It's such a good feeling just to be, part of the Australian history and part of the hearts of most Australians who've had the privilege of knowing who I am and what I do. And I think that's why I like doing live stuff so much, because, it's easy, no offence, it's easy, you could just see it from influencers or whoever else tries to be famous, to get a cover or to get followers or to do all of that, to be behind a veil that alters the reality. When you go and see someone live, you know what they're really made of. And I think that's why for me, the ultimate place to perform is in a theatre in front of my audience, and for us to feel the magic and the laughter together. There's nothing that replaces that.
Well, I was going to drop the butler from my name and just be Neil, but that bloke from the young ones got in ahead of me, and I've got to say...
Right, you need to grow your hair.
Yeah, and have something of a lobotomy, I would have thought, because I've spent most of my life deflecting that one. Now, Effie, we are absolutely delighted that you are getting out and about and visiting some theatres. We're going to tell people that that you can, apart from the Geelong one, we'll come back to the Geelong one, you're going to be in Moonee Ponds at the Clock Tower Centre next Saturday night. Then you're off to Yarraville. Then you're off to Adelaide Fringe Festival. Now, you didn't book yourself in there thinking it's a hairdressing event with the Fringe Festival, did you?
I don't do fringes anymore.
Yeah, okay, because that's good, because Rob doesn't need a hairdresser anymore. Penrith, Marrickville, Chatswood, getting away from Melbourne a bit, although I think your friend Mary lives up that way these days.
No, what? I go everywhere, man. I'm like the Leyland brothers. Very excited because I haven't done Geelong and I've never done Moonee Ponds either.
No, well, Moonee Ponds, of course, there's another very famous person came out of there. Dame Edna, she needed the Dame bit in front. We couldn't just call her Edna.
She's cultural.
You're at the Story House Theatre, which is part of the Geelong Performing Arts Centre, this Friday night at 7:30.
Unreal. I hope to see you all there. I promise you will get more value than you ever thought you could.
Now, according to the thing on the website, it's called Up Yourselfness. Can you give us just some insight as to what that means?
Yes, it is. I do believe that in the current reality that we live in, I think that we are always compromised in the sense that we are sold that we're never good enough, we're never thin enough, we're never hot enough, we're never smart enough, we're never rich enough, we're never famous enough, we're never this enough, we're never that enough. And in the last few years, with all this isolation that we've had and all this upset about what's been happening in the world, we are being robbed of our ability to feel okay. And there's nothing that makes you feel more okay than the love of self. So Up Yourselfness is, a psychological multivitamin that you must never compromise on. And if you feel good about yourself, you're a good human, you're out there doing what you do in whatever way you do it, wherever you do it, and that you're raising, good children and are part of a great community, then you deserve to be completely up yourself.
Wise words, Effie, because if you can't love yourself, how can you possibly love others?
Exactly. Did I say that? Because I
No, but I reckon you will be on Friday night.
You can use it if you like.
No, I've already used it. No.
Tickets are still available, amazingly. I don't understand how tickets are still available.
It will sell out. It's
so,
a few tickets off selling out. So get in there and come and see.
Yeah. $55. You're joking. Surely it's got to. Yeah. It's a great night out for $55 in Geelong. Tickets available through the Geelong Arts Centre website. And Effie, we can't wait to catch a glimpse of you in our town.
That's right. And you can also get tickets at maryandeffie.com/tour.
Ah, there you go. In fact, that when you press that button, it takes you through to that website. So you go there, maryandeffie.com
Easy to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. And could you do us a little favour, and because we have to go, could you please thank Mary for being available earlier as well? We haven't really got time to say that to her directly.
Because she needs some, because I've been pulling a lot of focus now for the last 3.5
Yeah, and she only got the Opera House. I saw that chat that you had with her on Facebook, and she only got the Opera House. She got the Geelong Performing Arts Centre. We know who's won that competition.
No offence. I mean, I love Geelong, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't have minded a bit of Opera House myself.
Oh, eventually,
Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Thanks, Effie. Thanks for being part of it.
Thank you so much. Good luck and best wishes. Hope to see you in Geelong Friday night.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.